All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brescher here. Today's objective is that we're able to accurately add with rational numbers. Now, this would include integers and positive and negative fractions and decimals. We have some samples here, -3/4 plus -1/2, or -75 hundredths plus -5 tenths. And we'll be able to solve problems like this with positive and negative fractions and decimals by the end of this lesson. There's also some embedded practice problems. I would encourage you to pause the screen once you feel like you've got a good understanding. Try to solve it on your own, and then when I reveal the answer, you can see how you did. All right, moving on. First thing we want to do is review how to model adding with integers on a number line. So anytime you have positive and negative numbers being added together, we can use a number line to model them. And this will help you to better understand what is taking place when you're adding with positive and negative fractions and decimals. So looking at the first example, we have -3 plus -4. The first thing you want to do is start at the first number. So if the first number is -3, we're going to bring our little man over here, or woman with no hair, over to -3. And that's going to be the starting position. So the first number tells you where to start. Second number, if it's negative, we move to the left. And if it is positive, we move to the right. So in this case, we have a -4. So we're going to move to the left 4 units. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we end at our answer, -7. Our next one, we're going to start at the first number. So start at 2. Boom. And a -5 tells us move to the left if it's negative. So I'm going to move to the left 5 units. 1, 2 units brings me back to 0. And 3, 4, 5 units to the left ends at -3, so my answer is -3. So again, we're practicing start at the first number. So I'm going to start at -7 in this case, and the next number this time is a positive, so it tells me to move to the right 5 units. So I'm going to count 5 units to the right with my little man. 1, 2, or woman, 3, 4, 5. And notice that after 5 jumps to the right, we get to our answer, -2. We got a couple more. So this one, we're starting at -2, and we're going to move to the right 6 units because it's a positive 6. So start at -2, and I move to the right 6 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I end at my answer, which is 4. And if you really think about it, what we're doing, anytime one of the numbers is negative and one of them is positive, it's kind of like 6 minus 2 is 4. 7 minus 5 is 2. In this instance, the positive number is has a greater absolute value. Therefore, my answer is going to be positive. In this case, the negative number has the greater absolute value, so my answer will be negative. Here you notice the negative has the greater absolute value, so the answer is negative. And if both of the numbers are negative, it's just like adding two positive numbers. You just add 3 plus 4, except for now my answer is a negative answer. So you do need to look at your numbers before you start and think about, will my sum be negative or positive? Let's move on to the next page. In order to add positive and negative numbers, we also want to review adding positive fractions and mixed numbers as well as decimals. So we're going to do a quick review of what we do when we're adding positive fractions and positive mixed numbers. 3 easy steps: convert to a common denominator, add the numerators, and then simplify. So in this case, 3/4 plus 1/2. The first thing we're going to do is convert to a common denominator, which is, well, here we go, 4. The denominator, or the least common multiple between the two denominators, 2 and 4, is 4. When we convert, you'll notice that we had to multiply 2 by 2 to get 4, so we have to do the same thing to the numerator to create an equivalent fraction. Next, we add the numerators. And when we add these numerators, we can just rewrite them as 3 plus 2 over 4. Then we add those together. 3 plus 2 is 5 over 4, or 5/4. And when we simplify, that is equal to 1 1/4. Let's look at the other one. With mixed numbers, we have 3 1/5 plus 1 1/2. And my first step again is to convert to a common denominator. In this case, it is 10. Since 5 times 2 is 10, we had to also convert the numerator to 2/10, and the equivalent fraction here would be 5/10. Next, we're going to add the whole numbers and add the fractions. Finally, we can simplify to get our answer of 4 7/10. Let's look at decimals. And with decimals, we need to remember to vertically align the decimals and place values, and then add as if they're whole numbers. Bring the decimal straight down then in your answer. So first thing we need to do is vertically align them. If you want to annex the 0, you can to help keep your place values lined up. It won't change the value. Now we add as if they're whole numbers. 5 plus 0 is 5, 7 plus 5 is 12. And we end up with this. Finally, bring the decimal straight down. Notice they were both negative, so it's just like adding two positive numbers. When one of the values is negative and the other value is positive, things change just a little bit. We've lined them up vertically, however, we're going to subtract. So just like when we modeled it, it's kind of like subtraction if the signs are different. When we subtract, we have to realize that we're going to start with this number when we model it, and we're going to move to the right this many units, which means we're still going to be in the negatives. So I have to realize that my answer will be a negative answer. Again, if you want to annex the zeros, that's fine, but now we're subtracting. And we get this as our answer. Bring your decimal straight down. Notice it's a negative because we are farther to the left. Our starting position is farther to the left than the number of units that we're moving to the right. Moving on. Now it's your turn to practice a little bit. See if you can apply the modeling concept to help you understand how to solve each of the problems. Pause the screen, start with this problem right here, and then we'll reveal the answer. Okay, let's see how you did on this problem right here. You're starting at 40 and move to the left 75 units. You should have ended up with negative 35. Let's move on to this one over here. Notice they're both negative. Did you remember just add them like you would positive numbers? But then you would get a negative answer. Let's try this one. Again, pause your screen. Don't forget to convert to a common denominator, and we'll see how you did. Did you realize they were both negative? After converting to a common denominator, you should have got negative 4/6 plus negative 5/6, which equals negative 9/6. And if we simplify this improper fraction into a mixed number, we get negative 1 3/6, or negative 1 1/2. Let's do the next one. Actually, let's move over here. Notice again we have two negatives. This time they're both mixed numbers, but when we have two negative values, remember it's just like adding two positive values, except for our sum will be negative. Don't forget to convert to a common denominator. Okay, let's see how you did. Negative 1 2/3 would convert to negative 1 4/6. And when we add them together, we add the whole numbers to get negative 3 and the fractions to get negative 5/6 for an answer of negative 3 5/6. Let's try the next one. Negative 4 plus negative 5. That's right. Think of the model. Start at the first number, move to the left for another negative. Since they're both negative, it's just like adding, except that my sum will be negative, a negative 9. How about this one? Ooh, this is challenging. See how you do. Convert to a common denominator, but remember, when one number is positive and the other number is negative, it's going to be like subtracting. Let's check your answer. Did you get negative 7/20ths? When we convert to the common denominator of 20ths, this becomes 8/20ths, a positive 8/20ths. And this over here becomes negative 15/20ths. We would take 15 minus 8 to get 7, but we have to realize since this number has the greater absolute value, your answer will be negative. Moving on. Here we have decimals. Again, one positive and one negative. Did you get negative 35/100ths? Maybe some of you even realize that this is the decimal form of these fractional values. And believe it or not, this fraction over here is equal to negative 35/100ths when we convert it to a decimal. Our last problem, pause it, and we'll see how you did. All right. Did you start at 6 48/100ths? If you think about that model, we're going to be farther to the right than the amount that we moved to the left, which tells me my answer is going to be positive. And this is going to be like subtracting because the signs are different. One value is positive and the other is negative. So we get the answer 2 827 thousandths. I hope that helped you out. See ya.